Diego Muniz, he's done it again. Oh, what a lovely goal. And I'm delighted for Sasha Lukic. It's his first goal for the club and he'll love that. The Hammersmith enders are on their feet. It's Muniz again. Fulham 3-0 ahead.
Hello and welcome to the That's So Craven podcast, your Fulham podcast from Down Under. And we're here tonight to talk about the upcoming game on the weekend against Manchester City. What can we say? I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure Marco's planning meticulously as always, but it feels like chaos should abound to give us half a chance of actually changing our fortunes here and having any impact on the game without being too miserable about it. Regardless, I am joined by two fine gentlemen. I get, you know what, as a bonus, because we're near the end of the season, I'm going to introduce you first, Sam. Hello, Sam.
Thank you. It's not like I literally came out of you or anything. No, it's all right. I've appreciated the bromance that you've had with Skivvy, and you know what? I think you having poor connection is like a perfect metaphor for what we're about to get ourselves into. So yeah, it's the blind leading the blind. I'm all about it. It's going to be fun. Yeah. Excitations. I don't know. Anyway.
Good evening, good afternoon, Skibby. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all good. Looking forward to, well, I guess just after that intro, it's just that anything's possible in this podcast. I think I was just taken aback by everything, but hey, we won't dwell on that. I was just a bit lost. But
I always marvel at Sam's ability to try really hard to throw me off at the beginning of a podcast.
Do you know, like the funniest part is I'm not actually trying that. I'm just letting the thoughts flow, and maybe that's a bad thing. But you know what? I think that's why people tune in, and we love you for it. Join the Discord.
Yeah, and on that, without any further ado, and on that very topic, let me tell you about our Discord. If you haven't already found out, or if you didn't already know, we started a Discord channel at a Discord server, and you'll find our links to the Discord in our bio and pretty much everywhere we appear, because we're flogging it quite hard at the moment. But yeah, it's a place where the Fulham family can come and chat about all things Fulham, about transfers, about players, about chats. Might even find a cheeky live stream in there from time to time, but whoever said that? But yeah, please join along. We've had a really great response, and thanks to everyone who has jumped in and joined along in the conversation. It's good to have you along, and it's actually turning out to be a really nice place to chat. We've got some really, really good content providers that you will know and love, like Cottage Tactico and Fulham Transfers. Help me out here, Skibby. Fulham Transfers.
Fulham Transfers, yeah. Fulham Spares. So if you're looking for those spare tickets, we've got you covered.
Absolutely. And there's some good chat in there. Pretty much you could live inside our Discord, be nowhere else, turn off all your socials, and be a very happy person, because actually you wouldn't get all the crap that all your other socials feed you.
Yeah.
No ads, and it's free. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, well done, Dad. Well done.
Okay, let's do a quick recap on that miserable game we had or witnessed last week. Sam, I'm going to go to you first, because you haven't been on the airwaves talking about this yet. But what were your thoughts and feelings and emotions on the back of that game on Saturday against Brentford?
My thoughts and feelings and emotions were you and Skibby had a really lovely chat that I enjoyed 10 times more than actually watching the fucking game. Sometimes, because I don't claim to be an expert. I come here weekly, and I'm very happy to be here. I know. I come here weekly, but I was watching the game just thinking, I am bored. I don't get what's going on. It's extremely frustrating. And sometimes when I watch games like that, it's like it makes me question whether I'm not seeing something or whether it's truly terrible. And it's been very, very nice to be validated that it was just a really, really awful game from kind of all parties involved, but just boring. And when I'm watching a game close to 2 a.m., that's when I'm at like peak rage. So to go through that was very, very strenuous. And my frustration just grew and grew and grew to the point where when the game ended, I just felt that's about right. And just went to bed very passive aggressively, really.
Skibby, anything more to add to the little chat we had the other day?
Not really. I think just to give sort of Sam a bit of just a recognition, I guess, in terms of it wasn't just you. The second half, I was doing chores around, like things that I was putting off for ages, things that I would never. I've been putting on for months. And that decided to be the perfect time to do it because it was just that bad of a game that I could still see the screen a little bit. I had my headphones on so I could look at the screen if something interesting happened, which it didn't. And yeah, I just managed to. And then, you know, the girlfriend was really happy that I got some chores done that I was not putting off for ages. And all I got to thank for it is Fulham and Brentford for putting on probably the worst game of Premier League football in a long, long time.
Yeah,
it's interesting that kind of having thought about it a bit more and kind of listened to bits and pieces on the airwaves, it kind of emerges that if you're trying to find some good takeaways, some healthy takeaways from it all, it's just how shit Ivan Toney was and how ineffectual he was, you know, I think caused quite a lot of pleasure around the place. I mean, he was pretty awful, really. He was non-existent, and you have to take a lot of pleasure from that. And I think the other general feeling that sort of came as people came away with was just how awful it is to kind of be at the GTEC. I'm trying to put this really nicely. Be near them.
Yeah, I was about to say, is this the nice version? Actually, to be honest, if you do hate Ivan Toney, I highly recommend listening to the pod before this, where you two just go off on probably about a 17-minute tangent about how much you dislike the bloke.
Don't get me started.
I mean, there's only so much time in the day, but it was a fantastic listen, and you should also join the Discord.
Yeah, exactly. Poor little baby got caught betting. Well, anyway, moving on.
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's talk about the game on the weekend. Apparently, there is one. We're playing.
Can we go back?
Yeah. Oh.
You know,
can I ask?
Would you rather be kicked in the stomach or punched in the face? Take your pick.
It's okay. So, like, what is the equivalent? Because I was thinking of being like a cashier at McDonald's and seeing someone really, really heavy come towards you. Like, that's what this game. That's the level of fear. Because I just don't want to do this, because like they're out of Champions League. Like the league is fully their focus now. They're going to give us a hiding, and we won't have talcum powder to make it better. And like, it's going to be awful. It's actually going to be awful.
I don't know. I never have that kind of feeling when you're playing someone like City. It doesn't matter if Arsenal leading the Premier League and likely to win it, or you name the other 3 or 4 top 3, 4, 5, 6 clubs. I never feel the same way as I do when City comes to town or we go to. Well, actually, going to them is awful, but when they come to us, I always feel that. I don't feel optimistic, like suddenly we're going to derail their whole season, but I think it's something kind of worth turning up for if I was a player. And you want to show your best, because if you can actually, it's an opportunity that if you can actually do something remarkable and memorable against this City team, I I think it becomes very notable in your career. People talk about this sort of stuff, so it is an opportunity. And am I being wildly optimistic here, or am
A
I
little
just
bit, a little bit. I was thinking that, yeah.
It's not in your control.
Yeah.
So
That's
what's
the
that,
thing.
Skippy?
Look,
It's just not in your control, because you can be really happy and really optimistic and be like, yeah, we want to get one over on Man City, but it's never the ball's never in your court. Like they will turn up, they will boss everything, and you just don't have a say in the matter. I think that's just the way that it goes. And then my mind casts back to, I think it was either the relegation season or just before, where Man City came to us. They had, Carlos Tevez, Yaya Toure, David Silva, like absolutely ridiculous players. And we were 5-0 down, I think, but we're 4-0 down at halftime. And Yaya Toure absolutely tore us apart. And that's probably one of the only times I've sat there and really been like, yeah, we're out of our depth. This is ridiculous. And it's just a really familiar feeling that I get with Man City. And every time I've seen them with De Bruyne, especially, I mean, they haven't got company now, but they've got, a suitable players who have gone on, and they've been treble champions, right? They've off the back of winning the European, the Champions League. I'm just looking forward to a day out. It's the end of the day. It's the end of the season. It's the last trip to the cottage for 3 months, 4 months, and I'm just gonna walk down the Thames, have a nice pint, have a bit to eat, and then go home. And I'm not expecting a massive, great, maybe admire Man City's football technique and everything, and be in awe of them, and like, oh yeah, these are the guys that are the champions. But I have zero expectation from Fulham, and this isn't a disrespect to Fulham. This is just they're just ungodly, and we're Fulham. So
I really love how we've reduced this to, I really hope it's sunny.
That's all I want.
But fair enough. Fair enough. Mate. Look, I love Cool Runnings as much as the next person, but honestly, this isn't really an underdog story as well, because I think it would be a better narrative if we were like fighting for our lives. We're in a proper relegation fight. We're very much in the clear now, so we're just kind of just trying to get the points where we can still get them. And City are trying to win the league, so they're really going to come at us in not a comfortable way. But yeah, hopefully there's a nice southeasterly, and and City gets a lovely walk.
A few nice boats on the Thames. What a great day!
Beautiful.
Might even be Pins weather, maybe. We'll
spare a thought. Can you imagine how miserable it would be if we were sitting in 17th position? And just in desperate need of a win, and the last game of the season, City come to town. It could be worse. Before we go any further, let me just call out some of the housekeeping here about the fixture. Obviously, it's an early one. It's a 12:30 p.m. kickoff in London, and for us in Perth, Western Australia, it's a 7:30 p.m. kickoff, and Alfie gets to watch his first game of Fulham in his whole life.
Does he? I love that.
Yeah, he certainly does. Yeah. Yeah, he'll probably never want to watch football ever again, because he'll be going, why can't we get the ball, Daddy? I thought there was supposed to be two teams in this game. Yeah. Anyway, it's at 9:30 for you, Sam, in Melbourne, and for the USA, there's a couple of pretty grim starts on the East Coast. Not too bad for a 7:30 a.m. kickoff, but on the West Coast, Pacific time is a 4:30 a.m. kickoff. That's pretty harsh. Anyway, but back to the fun. Okay, tell me this: who would you rather be, or who would you least like to be? Would you rather be a Fulham defender? Would you rather be Bert Leno? Would you rather be a midfielder or a striker who could literally go and get a hot dog from the concourse and not be missed?
I wouldn't mind being Muniz in this game to an extent, because I think it's fair to say he might have a breather and might not necessarily have that much to do. So maybe he could stretch. I don't know. Like if I see him, yeah, I don't know. He'll be doing everything but Sudoku, I reckon. Like it's. I really don't know what to say about this game, to be honest.
You didn't answer my. Oh, you did answer my question. You said Leno, but Skibby, what do you reckon? Who would you rather be? Would you rather be a defender?
Bench.
Yeah. Would you rather be a defender who's going to have such a lot of work to do?
Yeah.
Or
break
Leno,
it down.
who's got goalkeeping practice? A midfielder who will really struggle to get the ball. I mean, I can see Zhao getting sent off in this game in a desperate attempt to break the play up and actually get the ball. Pereira, unless he drops really deep, ain't going to see it. The wingers, tough game for them as well. And Muniz, well, if he doesn't sit in the halfway line, he won't even be anywhere near the action, surely.
Yeah, I mean, even if you break it down like you just did, Leno's going to get a lot of work. The defense, the fullbacks, that's going to be probably the worst position, I think, because a lot of Man City's play comes from the wings, the wide areas, and you just get run ragged. And then they're like, okay, we're going to give Bernardo Silva or Grealish a rest now, and here comes Doku, and you're like, oh, for God's sake. It's just relentless. Central Rodri bosses the best, probably the centre mid in Europe, if not the world at the moment. So you've got no chance there. I think you just got to take your chance. And I think I'd rather be Muniz because no one's expecting anything. So there's a lot of
well, that's the thing.
A lot of no expectation there. So you'll probably get off scot-free. But I think if you're going to be anywhere in the middle, trying to defend against Haaland is going to be horrendous. I just don't think I'd want to be on the pitch, to be honest.
You think about it, you're sort of moving from the defence forward. Leno, people will still scrutinise. If 7 goals go in, God forbid, if he lets 2 in, that kind of half, people will be annoyed about that and actually give him stick about that. But the guy's not going to have a moment's break. His defence is going to be torn apart, most likely. So he'll have very little shielding. He'll have nothing stopping their midfield from coming out of it. It's an onslaught. It's Gallipoli. It's First World War. It's trench warfare stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of that level of stuff coming at you.
Do you know what's the part that shits me? Oh, sorry, Sam. I was just going to say, the part that shits me about this, the part that really shits me about this is the fact that I truly believe it's probably going to be a half decent contest, and then it's literally going to be a penalty that City are going to put away, and then it's just going to be a terrible day from then on out, unless there's a nice southeasterly.
Well, that'd be a lot to be proud. That'd be a lot to be proud of if we hold them off, and the floodgates are broken by a penalty. That would be something, Sam. That would be quite an achievement. Sorry, Skippy, what were you going to say?
I was trying to think of like past games or recently, and I mean, do you remember when Wilson got through on goal, got taken out by João Cancelo, and we got a penalty and a red card, and you're thinking, oh, okay, this could go pretty well. I think that was to level the game. And even with 10 men, they absolutely bossed us. Like you could see. I mean, I don't care what anyone says. Like Guardiola, he took over a team with so much money and could spend on what he wanted. But Jesus Christ, he's a good coach.
Yeah, he is.
To boss an 11-man team as 10 men was ridiculous. That was just something that should never have happened. But I witnessed it and watched it and just going like, how have they got 1 man less? But it feels like they've got 1 man more. It's ridiculous the amount of effort they put in. And then I think you talked about the penalty. I remember, I think it's the same game, isn't it? Where we were 1-1 up until the last minute and De Bruyne took an absolute dive. I don't care, there was no way that was given as a foul anywhere else on the pitch. But, it's Kevin De Bruyne is Man City in the last minute and they need the win. But, I mean, so those sort of situations can happen. It's not impossible. But at the same time, I'm not holding my breath. But Yeah, Man City are just a different breed.
Do remember and remind yourself that we have to get the ball into the box in order to actually get a penalty, Skippy.
That is true. That is true.
I
fancy something like can't handle Diop or something, and he just gets dragged down by a Kanji. Something similar like that. That'll happen maybe, but
yeah. Let's look at the fun facts of recent form for Man City. It makes some interesting reading. There's Wolves 5-1, Nottingham Forest a respectable 2-0, Brighton 4-0, Chelsea very respectable 1-0, and ignoring the Real Madrid game here at the moment on account of the fact that it's not Premier League, but a 1-1 draw against Real Madrid. Now, that's 7, 11, 12 goals in the Premier League in the last 4 games, and only 1 conceded. Not bad going. If we look at the form comparison, Man City currently placed first for the last 10 games, 25 goals for, and only 6 against. Not bad. Fulham 9th place. So we arguably Man City are first place when they're currently sitting second. So they've improved themselves by 1 over the last 10. We've actually improved ourselves by 4 positions in the Premier League, hypothetically, up to 9th over the last 10. But yeah, so what, I guess I hear you all say. But look, I think that's kind of interesting. Obviously, you know, they're running for the title here, sitting in second place behind Arsenal at the moment. But if I look at the rest of the season, just can't see them losing. Cannot see them losing. Can always see Arsenal losing. Arsenal definitely are beatable. We proved that.
Totally.
So yeah, it's difficult to see them faltering, isn't it? But let's talk about lineup. We kind of had a bit of a conversation about this, Skippy and I, the other day, and obviously we've been talking about it in the Discord. Please join us free. And you know, as I said earlier at the outset, I'm sure Marco is treating this as just another game, and he's meticulously planning, and he will have very, very discreet plans. What do you think it means for the midfield? Obviously, Polini is fit and will play. Who will partner Polini in the midfield? Who will start on the wings? And yeah, I think those are the only contentious areas, really. I mean, I can't see any changes at the back. Don't see Rodak making an appearance, and Muniz has to play. So, who's going to partner Polini, and who's going to start on the wings? Sam,
I think it's quite likely that it's probably still going to be Lukic. I can see Reed potentially starting this game. Can't see Kearney starting. I think Silva's a bit more likely to go for total disruption and maybe pair the pit bull with the terrier. I think based off of the last couple of games, I actually agree with you guys, what you guys were talking about last pod. I think if you're going to start Traore, it would probably be in these last 2 games, at least to properly see what that is. I mean, because if not that you should experiment against a City, but you can kind of almost experiment against a City. And if we're judging based off of Willian's last recent performance, I still think he can absolutely have like a turnaround within a game, and then be decent for like Luton. But maybe it does require a shake-up and actually putting Traore in there. And I'd like to see the combination of Traore and Iwobi. I think that's what I want. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Lukic to solidify that kind of low block, I think would make sense to me. We've talked about his disruption, and we just need someone to kick Phil Foden a little bit. So if he plays, because this is the other thing about Pep, is his rotation is just so annoying. As a fantasy Premier League player, can't stand him, because you're like, oh, Foden scored a hat-trick, he'll be in next week. Nope, benched. So whether it's Foden, whether it's Grealish, whether it's Kevin De Bruyne, you need someone in there who's going to show a bit of muscle and let them know they're in a game. And I think that's going to be Lukic with Palhinha for me. And yeah, I'm an advocate. I want to see Adama. I think what I would kind of want to see is like defending is with Pereira dropping deeper when we're out of the ball. So Pereira comes back, maybe looks after the wing a little bit, and we try and leave Adama up wide right, and then just use him as that out ball. I think that would be something which we could try and work. I think there's probably going to be something that's completely anti-Marco, and he's probably, if he ever listens to this and go, what an idiot, like clearly plays FIFA, that's about as good knowledge as he's got. But for me, it just makes sense that, you know, if we're able to sort of get on a low block, it makes sense to have somebody really quick, really strong to find and sort of sit in the gaps where Man City are going to leave gaps, because that is the thing about Man City. They do leave gaps. They do sort of overcommit. And that's definitely one of Pep's ways of playing. And that counter that we saw against Arsenal, I could see that working really well in, when I say Arsenal, I mean at the Emirates, when Adama just had Saliba to beat and just ghosted him and could have scored the winner. I think that's something which we could use for Fulham. But I mean, in a realistic world, I can't see Marco changing it too much. I think he'll stick with Iwobi and Willian. He'll stick with his best 11, and I think that's what we'll see. But like you guys said, I'd love to see us mix it up a little bit. I'd love to see Adama get a run out, but I think the back four is solidified. I'd love Lukic to sort of keep his place in the midfield there, and then Adama to come in for, I think, to be honest, for Iwobi, I think we go, you know, Willian, Pereira, and Adama, and then Muniz up top. I don't think Iwobi's done badly to be dropped. It just seems a natural thing that we rely heavily on Willian when he's on his game. Therefore, he can't be dropped. And I want to see Adama get a run out. So that's what I would do. But
I think what's interesting about all this, and we're trying to manifest this, aren't we? I'm not quite sure we're going to pull it off, but it sort of feels like the more you talk about it and break it down and explain what you'd like to see and what you know has to happen if that does actually occur, the more I'm thinking Silva is he's just not a chaos theory guy, is he?
no.
You know, he's Mr. Meticulous. You know, I bet his shoes are very neatly, you know, at the door. But because if you think about it, to actually have that outlet of Adama just hanging around the halfway line, waiting for something to happen, he's not going to be doing the defending. So you're going to have a massive hole there, which means Pereira is going to come back, which means it changes Lukic's role if he plays as well. It puts Castagna under huge pressure again, and I think Marco just looks at it and goes, "Why would I invite that?" You know, I hope I'm wrong, and he just goes, "You know what? The people have spoken," and because it's I don't know if we started this conversation, but I'm hearing it around the traps from a lot of fans on Twitter, on other podcasts. People are talking about it. I do believe we came out with it first, but there you go. I think there's a lot of people talking about it, and maybe it's just a sense that it feels like Adama deserves a bit of a go, because I know he's had some injuries, but it seems like he hasn't had a fair go this season, and I think he sort of maybe he's not that well respected. Maybe he doesn't 100% have Marco's trust. And when I say trust, I mean trust that he will execute precisely what Marco Silva planned for him is. I think that's really important to Marco. Thinking about Marco, I don't know if you guys saw the report during the middle of the week that was kicked around on the Discord. It didn't start on the Discord; it was copied into the Discord. But a little article that suggested that Marco Silva is on £87,000 a week. Is that new information? Or was that pretty widely held that is his paycheck?
I mean, is that true? I didn't see that. I mean, I might have glanced over it, but I mean, as managers go, I think that's probably around the right figure for his caliber. I know that, unproven managers coming to the Premier League are on around 30k. The one that comes to mind was very publicised was Graham Potter. When he was at Brighton, he was on around 30k. He came over from, I believe, sort of Sweden or somewhere in Scandinavia. And then when he went to Chelsea, he ridiculously got, I think, up to about 200 odd K a week. So for a Chelsea level manager, 200k a week, fair enough. If that sets the benchmark, then okay. But Marco, 87, I think that's probably what you'd want to see around a manager like Marco, and I think that should hopefully keep him happy, where, we have got some headroom there to grow, and I think allows us to sort of push for that position of where Marco wants to be. I'd be more concerned if it was less. But I think what we've seen from Marco is that it doesn't really matter about the money. He had, 20 million a season, or 20 million over 2 seasons on the table from Saudi, and he didn't take it. So it's definitely, he seems to have held more credibility that, as long as a project fits his vision, that he's something that he will stick in for. So yeah.
I mean, managers play a different game, don't they? As a player, you could expect to have a career into your early 30s. If you're a keeper, even longer. But, let's call it early 30s. But then a really nasty injury, age 25, it's all over. Whereas a manager, you can have a very, very long career. So why wouldn't you, if you really backed yourself, why wouldn't you play the longer game? There's always going to be a Saudi or I don't know, where the next, honeypot might be. But £4.5 million a year? Sam, would that solve your housing problem?
I think it would solve many people's housing problem. Although, I don't know, Coles just keeps on raising the prices. Kettle chips are insane right now. They're about £8. Look, I think it's a bit of a cliche, and we've heard the statement like a million times over. But I do think the correct project does apply to managers, and I think Silva is very, very well suited to what he's doing at the moment. I think he, like, as much as we criticize them, I think he is kind of getting assurances from the Khans. They clearly have enough money to like support him, and as I said a while ago, we're on the precipice of a fully selected Silva squad of Silva transfers. So he is kind of getting his way in due time. And look, I don't think he's going to be lured away by say a Man United or something like that, because there's plenty of teams that are always shopping for managers, but outside of the prestige, why would you want to enter that toxic pit when you have a pretty comfortable position with an actual clear goal in mind that you actually seem to be actualizing? So I don't think it's an egregious amount of money at all. I think when you obviously it's a stupid amount of money in any capacity, but when you're talking big bucks Premier League, I think it's actually quite fair, if you can call 87,000 a week fair. But yeah, in this context,
and especially when your head's the first one on the chopping block, and when things aren't going well, so it's kind of like a high risk, high reward.
I think
position.
The gist of the article, however credible it was, could have been just dreamt up by someone to fill some space, but the gist of it was that it was some sort of reference to the Khans kind of acknowledging that their most important asset is Marco Silva, not the players, but they value him so highly and kind of want to do anything they can to keep him. And then also I guess some commentary around the fact that West Ham seem to have settled on a replacement for Moyes, and obviously Marco was touted as a possible contender there, and so if all those things are true, then we are somewhat safe. And the other interesting thing is, and a lot of people are talking about it, no one really knows, but I think there is a general sense emerging that at the end of this season and going into the summer period, we just might be in for some interesting transfer opportunities because, obviously the news squad cost Premier League proposed financial changes aren't going to be coming in for a while. But I think even under PSR and financial fair play, we look to be coming into a better period. Now, that probably requires us to release a bunch of players who are not going to be, these are going to be unpopular because they're fan favourites and they've served the club really well. But it's looking like a time when some of these older guys might need to be moved on and may well very well be moved on. Sam, you want to say something?
I was just going to say that I do think if the Khans don't invest in Silva this summer and properly finance him, he actually has proper pretenses to potentially leave us. And I'm totally with Skibby as well. I think Pep is an incredible manager, and I think Silva's an incredible manager as well. And I never really buy into the whole, you've bought all the players in the world. We've seen with Chelsea, we've seen with Man United. If you're a shit manager, it doesn't actually work. I mean, think of PSG as well. They had Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, couldn't make it work. Absolutely ridiculous. Silva has proven with the very shoestring that the Khans have given him, he has made us a mid-table side outside of a lot of logic that would suggest that he wouldn't be able to do that. So the only logical decision now, after 2 seasons of really, really consistent work with scraping the barrel and giving us Jimenez and Blessem Iwobi as our 2 main signings this season, frankly not good enough. And he's done incredibly well with that. I want to see a fully backed Silva this summer. And if he doesn't get that, I cannot criticize him if he wants to move on.
Well, to be fair, we are fighting a bit blind here. We are very critical of the Khans, and I think there's many good reasons to be critical of the Khans. But Silva will be privy to the full spreadsheet and the actual financial details as to how close we are to the swim lanes in terms of PSR and financial fair play. And so he may be an awful lot less frustrated than we are as fans not seeing players that we think should be coming in, because he might understand that it's not the Khans saying we don't have any ambition, just make us mid-table, Marco, and we'll pay you a bonus. He may well be fully on board with the fact that this is just frustrating. We don't have any room to move. We need to find some extra income. Marco, have you got any ideas? Alistair, have you got any ideas? We need to find some other income so that we can spend more money because we're willing to spend it, but we just can't. It may be that kind of conversation around the table. And obviously they're not going to talk about that because it's never going to be disclosed. But anyway, the reason I brought up Marco is because I kind of thought, what must he be thinking? And I think it's probably more terrifying to be a player on the pitch facing, these super giants running at you than it is to be Marco sitting with his chessboard and trying to think of ways which he can outsmart his counterpart. So I think he's probably frustrated that he doesn't have some more resources and some absolute cheats, but he must probably really relish the opportunity to kind of land at least something on Pep.
Oh yeah. Well, he's a target, isn't he, Pep?
Absolutely. Yeah. He's sitting at the
Everybody
top of the
wants to
hill.
get one. It is literally basically, like you say, the
Federer.
chessboard. Yeah,
You're Federer.
and he's more or less sitting there playing a strategy game against someone else. It's basically like real life Football Manager, right? You trying to predict what someone's going to do and how you counteract that threat. And like he's got to sit down with Bo Morte and the rest of the staff and to say, separate it out. You know, this is what we want from our defenders. This is what we want from our attackers. And basically watching tapes and tapes and tapes. And it must be quite demoralizing just to watch, okay, here's Haaland. How do we stop him? And you're just watching goal, goal, goal. He scores with his head. He scores a volley. He scores from anywhere. It just doesn't make sense. And you're like, how do you stop him? Right. Well, we're going to have to stick about 4 players on him and see what happens. But I mean, no, I'm going to give Marco the credit. I think he's got the mentality and he's got the tactical know-how of how to beat Pep on paper. But to have the resources at his disposal who can actually carry out the task and carry out the game plan is a completely different thing. Is saying, right, we want De Bruyne to have no time on the ball. Okay, do we have, a prime Sergio Busquets or someone like that to sit on him, or a Kante? No, we've got Sasha Lukic, but we'll have to do. So it's kind of that kind of situation. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to come down. He's going to be disappointed. He's going to be frustrated. And we're going to see a lot of passion from Marco at the sideline because that's what he does. We're going to see him try and implement a game plan. But I mean, I reckon there's probably Arteta and maybe Wolves this year in Gary O'Neill, who managed to carry out their game plan perfectly and beat Man City. But
it's interesting.
Not so much. Or the other.
It's interesting. We always talk about chess, but chess is probably a very poor metaphor for what Pep and Silva are actually doing. In a game of chess, everyone's players, be they black or white, have the same properties, same characteristics. And okay, the way in which those players can move are all constrained. But geez, our bishops aren't quite their bishops, are they? And and God forbid the Queen is about 10 times more powerful. But anyway, just a question, and thanks once again. I'm sorry my fingers aren't working fast enough, guys. But thank you all for joining along on the live stream as you always do. We really do appreciate it, guys. And we're not ignoring you at all by not commenting or even saying hi. But we're possibly a few men down and a few fingers down. But I just wanted to pull up a question here posed by Steve, who's been putting forward some pretty good little questions all night, and I haven't been ignoring him.
Sorry,
but now's your chance to shine, Steve. I think Steve's actually in Madrid waiting for a football game. Steve says, with Luis Boamorte leaving, will that affect Silva? What do you think?
I think yes. Personally, I think it's like any other colleague that you have in your team. Like, we all have jobs, we all have teams that we work with. You have those certain people who get you and understand your work ethic and understand how you think, and especially after how long that they've worked together. It's not their first job together, I don't think. So it's that growing sort of connection that they have, which I think will affect Silva going forward. I think Silva is not going to be irreplaceable. I think he is going to find someone who fits the bill and can offer the same sort of technical know-how and basically be able to assisting Silva. But I don't think it's going to happen overnight, and I think it's going to take time.
Yeah, I agree. I think I mean, look, we've all got a work best friend, and we all get very, very sad when they leave. But you know what? We do move on, and It's no slight on Boamorte at all to say that Silva will keep on going. But the reality is he will, and I think it. Obviously, they work together, but Silva being the lead and Boa playing second fiddle, there is a different dynamic there. I think it's always going to be a little bit different when an assistant manager takes over a manager role. There's always going to be a bit of a new manager bounce, but their time is always a little bit numbered just because they're not necessarily used to stepping into that position. So I think long term it will be fine, and yeah, it's not necessarily going to be comfortable, but I mean, it's not going to completely devastate him. We're not going to see Silva with like a 5 o'clock shadow with bags under his eyes, just like he's just come out of the worst breakup of his life. He's not going to be watching Bridget Jones's Diary. I think they're going to have like some FaceTimes in there. Like maybe he'll send him a text mid-game just being like, wish you were here. But that I don't think it's going to be much more than that.
Saves an empty seat on the bench. Says no one sits there. That's Bowen's seat. And he's going to return one day.
It's Bowen's seat. Leave it alone.
You guys are making light of this aspect of it. But I think there's the Silva, the professional, and obviously it's a job. And there are many, many people who would be very, very good candidates. But what you need to remember is the sort of personal element to it, that I believe I'm correct, that Marco and Boa have known each other since they were kids. They played junior football together. They've known each other a really, really long time. They go on holiday together. They go on holiday with their families together. They're very, very close.
I agree, but I just don't see Silva looking up at like the Thames sky and it's a bit cloudy in the same way that Simba looks up at the night sky and sees Mufasa. I don't think that's like the same level. And I think he will be fine. I love that we're painting Silva in this light, that he can't move on without Boa.
I didn't say that. What I'm saying is Silva's a tactical guy, and I think he obviously respects Boa from that perspective. I think it's fortuitous, but probably not necessary at all, that he happens to be, a legend at Fulham. I don't think that even comes into it. That's just a bonus for us as fans, kind of knowing that he's part of the furniture and part of the system. But I think that level of trust that he has with Boa is actually hugely important. So I'm not sure about the spare seat on the bench and the 5 o'clock shadow, but there's another comment here from Jim following along, who says replacing Lewis Boamorte is very difficult. What do you think about Liam Rosenior?
Well, there's two parts of this question, because Liam Rosenior
separated by full stop.
Exactly, but Liam Rosenior obviously played for Fulham, so there's a connection there, and he's shown that he is a really good manager. To me, especially, a really good coach. I think he was at Derby County before Hull and did a really good job. I think he was just unlucky not to sort of get it full time. But I don't think there's got to be a dynamic of, does he fit into Silva's Portuguese speaking team? I mean, yeah, we have Gray as well, but I think that's again another sort of token coach for Fulham. But I think Liam Rosenior for me has another managerial job up his sleeve. He'll get many opportunities to come. So I don't know if he'd want to be an assistant manager. But would he learn from Marco, I suppose, is what he would want out of this, which I think he would. So for me, in a really dancey, around the answer way, I would love Liam Rosenior to come in. I think he's a fantastic coach, and I think he would be moulded into a potential future Fulham manager. But I don't think the time for him is right, because there is so much hype around him. I think he's actually been shortlisted for Championship Manager of the Year and got sacked. So he could be one of the first to win it while unemployed. but I think he will have an opportunity, if not at a relegated team who's coming into the Championship, who potentially would like a new coach, or an up and coming sort of Championship team. I think he will have no short of people wanting him, so I don't think he will, but I would love him to. But that's just a very Football Manager fantasy type thing. But I don't think
Surely Silva would hire somebody Portuguese. I mean, I don't think that's completely
Portuguese speaking.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be
yeah. Half of our squad's Brazilian. Like, I mean, we can hire someone English, but like I think the connection that all those boys have just through speaking Portuguese and sharing paella together, that's been extremely powerful.
That's Spanish food, by the way, Sam.
Whatever. There's a community there. There is a community there. Okay. I don't actually know that much Portuguese cuisine. What isn't Nando's? Although I'm pretty sure that's South African.
That's South African.
Yeah.
I just dropped out there for a moment, and
you really didn't miss much. You really didn't miss
I'm
much.
figuring I didn't miss much at all. You had another suggestion for who might be a great assistant manager, but obviously he's just being promoted to the Premier League, and that's McKenna at Ipswich.
No, I saw that take by some idiot. Like, oh God. Sorry if you're listening, if that is you, but I'm sorry. There is no way that a manager gets promoted, not just twice, double promotion, and then goes, you know what? I fancy having a stab at Fulham assistant manager. Really rubbed me the wrong way, that one. Let's bring it back down to earth, guys. Let's do that.
There are few things more enjoyable in life, Skibby, than you being triggered. Honestly, it's pretty fun. Jim, following along on the live stream, suggested something else too that the boys might have in common. It could be sardines.
I did see that.
Portuguese.
I did see that.
I'm not sure if sardines is a big food in Brazil. I don't think it translates, but never mind. Yeah. I do tend to agree with you there. I do think that as fickle and as shallow as it kind of appears, I think the whole Portuguese thing and Portuguese speaking thing is actually really has become incredibly central to the kind of buzz around our key players in the side, the players probably who make the difference, and that includes obviously Polinia in the middle.
Yeah.
One last thing I wanted to talk about, and not like I want to keep talking about this at all, but I think it's interesting. I don't know if you guys saw anything in the press yesterday, today, about Tosin having been offered a role at Spurs and turning it down. Did you see that?
I did not.
I didn't see that. He turned it down, did he?
I got a cousin. I got a cousin who's a massive Spurs fan. So do you, Sam. And he sends me little bits and pieces from time to time, and he asked me for a rundown on Tosin because he didn't know much about him.
Which cousin? Just for me.
Barney.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you later. Yeah.
Cool.
And anyway, he just sent me a little message to say, Tosin's been made an offer and he's turned it down. And his comment was, Ange isn't the kind of guy who wants to convince people to play at Spurs. Like, he wants you to convince him that you want to play at Spurs in order to actually get in the change room. So it's interesting to see that one developing. And I see there's also been some chat about Tosin possibly going to Newcastle. Yeah. Oh, well, that's going nowhere, seeing as you guys didn't see the article.
It's interesting what you said, though. When you said about Tosin rejecting Spurs because Ange wants people to tell him that, I can see exactly why he's rejected them, though, because that's not his mentality. He is the star, he is the precious boy, and needs to be you want me, I'm the guy. So for him to sort of say I want to, I think it's just his attitude.
I think
always talked about.
I think that comment was made in the context of they've made him an offer, he's turned it down. Some people are saying, oh, they're likely to, refresh the offer and come back in for him. And I'm saying, nah, that's not going to happen. And I think he's also probably, I cannot imagine, and this is going to be his problem, that he will accept having to compete for a position from the outset and being told that.
No.
It's going to be like the Jesse Lingard thing where he offered himself up to play for Barcelona, I believe. And my favorite comment on that was it was on Instagram or something like that, but it was something to the equivalent of, yeah, mate, I offer myself up to Dua Lipa, but it's not going to happen. I don't know. If Tosin wants to be the big boy, the main star, and he wants a club to come to him, slippery, salivating to be like, you're my number one. I've needed you all my life, Tosin. It's just not going to happen. So if he ends up a free agent next season, good, because it's just ridiculous. I mean, as someone who has a big ego, the ego is astonishing on that boy.
Well, I think I don't think we're the only ones who can see it. That there's this massive disconnect between his opinion of himself and kind of what we see, and I think he's going to find out the hard way that you're simply not going to walk into a club that he thinks he belongs at and own the shirt and displace, pretty talented players who've got a name, and it's just highly unlikely to happen. We could be proved completely wrong. Jim following along says Tosin's going to go to fellow mid-table club Man United. Yeah, and we wish him well with that because he's in for a personality reset and probably some difficult times in late nights and dark moments in his bed at night when he contemplates the hate that he will cop from their fan base.
Like, if he goes to Man United, he's going to look worse than what we think Silva's going to look like after Boa leaves him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't wish anything bad for the guy personally, but when people,
I kind of do now. He's annoying me.
Well, all I'm saying is when you've got an ego and there's hubris, then you kind of deserve what's coming to you. And maybe he's only a young man, but there seems to be a timely lesson coming his way very, very soon. Anyway, enough oxygen for Adrabaya Tosin. Guys, anything more to chat about? Have I missed anything? Have we missed anything ahead of Saturday?
Look, we've talked about the weather on the day. Look, if nothing else, I am really, really excited that Skibby's going to have a very, very nice walk to the cottage, and I hope there's going to be butterflies. I hope he gets a beer in his hand, and I hope he fully enjoys it. And I hope if you're going to the cottage, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And you know what? Sometimes this is just football, and we could be completely wrong, and it could all turn around and be. Sometimes it's nice to have low expectations before you go into things. Like. Sometimes it makes the day better.
Yeah, and it's also having zero or low expectations makes it very, very fun and very enjoyable when good things happen.
Well, last day at the cottage for the season, and then that it quite timely brings in the point which I didn't really think about, which is a send off for Boa, so that's quite good. So I'm sure everyone will give their best to Boa, and we'll all go to the Crabtree afterwards and beers on Boa, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you for your predictions, guys, but I'm going to predict another overhead bicycle kick from Mooney's probably top right corner I'm picking. without being too specific. And this time it's actually highly likely because Adebayo will not be in the way to block it.
I'm predicting a meteorite strike on specifically. It splits into 3 separate parts, taking out Haaland, De Bruyne, and Rodri, and then we win 6-0 after City also get a red card.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And on that note,
yeah,
you can't beat that, Skivvy. I'm not going to even let you try.
I'm not even going to try.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for following along and joining us as ever on the live stream. For everyone once again who has participated in the Discord, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And obviously, I believe I've checked with the administration, and there's space for more. So please feel very welcome. All you have to do is follow the invite, download the little app. It's free, and come and join us and chat to us. It's really, really easy. Even I can do it. Okay, guys. Sam, thank you very much. Skibby, thank you very much. And look forward to an early game. One for Alfie, as I said, off the sofa, and early bed, and for you, early shower, Skibby.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Thanks again, and thanks everyone for listening along. And as always, come on, you Whites.